Good morning, dear FIBO friends. This is the webinar called The Latest News on the New Normal. We've heard a lot about the new normal, and actually nobody really knows what the new normal is. And hopefully we're going to find that out. We have today three speakers for you. We have René Kalt with us, the CEO of the largest fitness operator in Switzerland. We have Silke Frank, the event director of FIBO Global, with whom I will do a Q&A at the start. And I will present after that some thoughts on what's going on internationally on the new normal and the reopening of fitness. So without further ado, I would like to start with Silke. And Silke, this whole coronavirus problem and this global health crisis is a surprise for all of us. Nobody really was prepared for this. So my question to you would be, how did you personally experience the lockdown period? You know, how did you stay engaged and how did you try to stay fit during this lockdown?
Yeah, thank you, Herman. First of all, a warm welcome to all participants of today's online seminar, also from my side. And Herman, again, happy birthday to you. And thank you for giving us an insight into the global developments in the fitness market on your special day. This is highly appreciated from our side, so thank you. But coming back to your question, the lockdown has hit us all hard, both personally and professionally. In the beginning, as for all of us, there was a lot to regulate and coordinate, whether it was school, kindergarten, or even the coordination of our jobs in the home office. In the end, after a few days for us, everything got off to a good start. Professionally, we held daily virtual meetings with the FIBO team in order to stay in touch and to be able to continue coordinating the planning for FIBO in October, the FIBO show in April, and the virtual FIBO at home. Privately, I started running again, which I didn't for many years, and did my workout at home. Since the fitness studios have reopened, I go to the gym again and also take part in some group fitness offers. I tried yoga for the first time. Yeah, and that's how I tried to stay engaged during this time.
Yeah, very good. I think like many of us, we had to scramble and to find out how to deal with this new situation. Yeah, I saw a lot of people going outside running and using their bike more than they used to in those countries, at least where you could go out. Because if you would lived in Madrid, it would have been very difficult. You were not allowed to go out at all. Yeah. So in Germany and the Netherlands too, we were still able to go out on our own and do some exercise outdoors as well as indoors with all sorts of virtual offerings. Yeah. But now back to FIBO. Of course, it was a big disappointment that we couldn't come to Cologne in April. Now you've placed the FIBO in October, 1st to 3 October. We have on 30 September, the European Health and Fitness Forum, of course. Yeah, exactly. We're looking very much forward to. But can you tell us a little bit why you decided to make it a smaller FIBO and why it's only a business-to-business event this October?
Yeah, of course. The corona pandemic and its consequences are the biggest challenge of the present days for the entire fitness industry and many other industries as well. How much the virus in the end will have changed is hardly foreseeable today, but there will be a time after corona and we should all prepare us for this time together. And this is exactly why we need FIBO in October as a kickoff event this year. Furthermore, during the discussions on postponing the show, many exhibitors expressed the wish not to cancel FIBO 2020 without a replacement. So after all, the industry, especially the B2B sector, needs a place to exchange experiences and ideas, a place for networking, especially now. This year, FIBO is the only industry event in Europe that can take on this role. There is no other event in Europe.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, of course. But can you share us a little bit what research you've done? What have you measured the temperature with club owners? Yeah, and willingness to come to Cologne end of early October? You have? Yeah. Okay.
This is an important question. Thank you. Only 14 days ago, we asked our visitors, will you come to FIBO in October? The result was that 1 in 2 of our visitors interviewed is currently planning to come to Cologne. The statement made by visitors who already have a ticket for FIBO is even clearer. 86% of all FIBO tickets already purchased for April have not been cancelled and returned to date. It is also to be expected that as we go into the summer and a few countries where still today fitness clubs are closed, will reopen and constraints on the business and society will be relaxed, more club owners and managers will feel comfortable to travel and come to Cologne. Beginning of October is still 3.5 months away, so a lot of can improve in the meantime. And altogether, this makes me very confident that the decision to hold a concentrated B2B event is the right one. Even if FIBO 2020, and we have to be very clear on this and very open, transparent, will be a bit smaller and not quite as international as we all know from April.
Yeah, of course, the North Rhine-Westphalia, where Cologne is, they will have strict protocols and rules and regulations, of course, for holding events like this. Can you tell us a little bit about the measures that will be taken to make it safe and sound to come to FIBO in October?
Yeah, of course. FIBO will be safe for exhibitors and visitors. Together with Köln-Messe and the Ministry of Health in North Rhine-Westphalia, as you said, we have helped to design and formulate the safety regulations and hygiene rules. And believe me, it was hard work, really hard work. We just discussed it together with Renee yesterday, the amount of work which has to be done. But Köln-Messe has already put some information online. We will provide FIBO-specific details this week, so we can go ahead. And one thing is certain, nothing will stand in the way of a successful FIBO. We will be able to comply with all regulations, and the exhibitors will also cope well with them. One thing I can assure you of is that we will support and advise our exhibitors with regard to all measures that have to be taken into account. And stands, for example, a safety distance of 1.5 meters must be maintained, but this will not cause any problems at the Cologne Exhibition Center. There's a lot of space. You can see here on this plan, on this map, which is shown, that we are able to use the usual B2B halls, which fortunately we are allowed to use in October. We have been able to leave most of the topics in the halls, have only smaller changes, and very pleased to receive so much support from our international and national associations, exhibitors and other partners to make this happen in October.
Yeah, no, it will be different, of course, but of course also the European Health and Fitness Forum, for which we will basically adapt the program a little bit to the new normal. But all the keynote speakers have been confirmed for September 30. Can you tell us a little bit more about the EHFF? Will there be live streaming, for instance? Anything about the program in itself? Yeah,
we have good news here. We have already sold around 300 tickets for the EHFF, and considering the available space, the event is almost sold out. So these tickets, which have already been bought for April 2020 and cost around 300 euros, and this is not a small amount for a ticket, have not been returned, which means that these top-class decision makers will be traveling to the European Health and Fitness Forum and FIBO as well. And it goes without saying that the EHFF will thematically refer to current developments, gives an outlook to the year 2030. The title is Hello from 2030, and thus attract a lot of interest this year. And therefore, as you asked, we will stream the event to reach as many people as possible and give them the opportunity to see and hear our top speakers like Magnus Lindqvist, for example, yeah.
Yeah. Very good, Silke. Well, thank you very much. I'd like to tell everybody who's viewing and listening that there is a Q&A, of course, on this webinar. So if you have questions, put them in the Q&A section, and then we can come back to that later after the speech of Renee Kalt. So let me then take over the mic and the screen and share with you some thoughts on the latest news on the new normal. So I'll take you through these 4 points, basically. First, a little bit of what is the fitness sector international perspective today, an overview of the recent opening situation on the fitness clubs in Europe, some experiences and some lessons learned from some case studies from operators who have opened. And then last, let's try to have a look at what will the new normal AC, I call it after Corona, not after Christ or before Christ, BC and AC, the new normal after Corona. So on the next slide, you'll see an overview of the global market and China, where it all started, of course, the Corona problem. You can see the red dot on the left-hand side, which represents the Chinese market. And that's only the 18 top cities. So China, and you can see the balls on this chart represents the size of the market. And on the bottom axis, you see the income of the country, the average per capita gross domestic product. And on the left-hand side axis vertical, you see the fitness penetration. So on the right-hand top side, you see the green ball, which is the USA. You see that they have the highest average income in that country and also the highest fitness penetration. It's about 22% in the US. And totally on the left, you see India, where the average income per person is, as we all know, very low. And also the fitness penetration is very low. So really there is a correlation between income and fitness penetration. And interestingly, if you then look at, for instance, China, if I would have drawn this slide, let's say 10 years ago, China would have been totally on the left-hand bottom of the chart and would have been a very small ball because the Chinese market has grown tremendously and it's now the #4 market in the world in terms of value in the fitness market. And if you then go, for instance, a little bit more to the right-hand side, if you Germany, you see Germany has a penetration of around 15%, and you can see the other countries there. So basically, the world fitness market is very diverse, but as it regards to Corona, everybody has been impacted. And I'll show you in the next few slides how the lay of the land is in Europe at the moment. The next slide is just a recap of the current, meaning the 2019 current market. This is a chart from the European Health and Fitness Market Report, published in April by Europe Active and Deloitte. And as you can see, we're talking about a market in Europe of around 65 million participants. We had a growth last year in 2019 of almost 4%. Market share for the top operators, the consolidation in the market is really accelerated. About 27% of the market is occupied in terms of number of members by the top 30 operators. We have about 63,000 clubs. We have a lot of M&A activity took place in 2019, and I think that will continue this year, the way things are going. 17 deals were done. And as you can see, the value of fitness was 28 billion last year. That is, to put that in perspective, football, and that is counting the tickets to Champions League matches, the Bundesliga, the Liga in Italy, all those things together with T-shirts and beer mugs that are sold, the merchandising is 25 billion. So fitness is bigger than football. That, of course, does not include the salary for the players or the coaches, but just the merchandise and the economic value of the product football. Next slide shows you how we started with this problem in China with Corona. Actually, January 3rd was the official announcement of the problem with 44 patients. People say it really started already in December, but it was really officially announced on January 3rd. And if you see on the top slide, then Wuhan went into citywide quarantine. That was really locking down the whole city on January 23rd. And you can see the subsequent dates on the top. And on the bottom side of the slide, you see the fitness industry, where from January 23, gyms basically were closed, first for Chinese New Year, but after Chinese New Year, they really did not reopen again. And basically, as from March 10, in China, fitness clubs started to reopen. And basically, we're now, of course, in the middle of June, but for the last 4 or 5 weeks, fitness clubs in Shanghai and the main cities have been open, and our business is almost back to normal. That means until yesterday, you probably have read in the news that there was a fresh breakout on the weekend in this fresh market in Beijing. And unfortunately, I heard yesterday from a colleague in Beijing that they have to close the fitness clubs again in Beijing because of the new occurrence of this, hopefully not a second wave, but again, occurrence of corona in Beijing and in Guangzhou actually. So that's not good news, but basically in Shanghai, things are still as normal. The next slide will show you where we are in Europe, since this is a European webinar. This is as of today, and actually there is a surprise announcement. I made this slide 2 days ago, but Mr. Macron announced on Sunday night that in Paris, the clubs could open yesterday, actually. So as you can see, there were 22 countries open or partly open. As you can see, these are all the countries that were open or are open today. France, there was only the Paris region was not yet open, but today the Paris region is opening. So that's earlier than June 22, which was planned. And in Spain, the whole country is open except Madrid and the Barcelona region, and they will open next week on Monday. Netherlands will open on July 1, UK, hopefully no formal news yet, but everybody's anticipating July 4, and Ireland will be the last country on July 20. So basically, we can say that by July, early July, pretty much all the fitness clubs in Europe will be open, be it mostly with protocols again, but will be open for business. So that is the good news. But that means that basically many clubs have been closed for 2.5 to 3 months, which is a very long period for anybody. So on the next slide, you will see a little bit of a timeline. This is an example from, we had a webinar last week where Juan Del Nieto, Rio Del Nieto spoke from Viva Gym Fitness Huts, the Spain and Portugal clubs. And this gives you a pretty good idea where in the middle of March, the closing of the clubs started. Then in April, they started really with bank loans, temporary layoff in Portugal, more video communications to the organization from the CEO of this company. Then as you see in June, there is now taking place a gradual reopening. They started with 6 clubs on the 3rd of June, the 5th of June, 14 clubs and so on. You can see that it's a very gradual opening of the clubs in that particular country. But of course, as he said in his, and you'll hear later from Renee on the Swiss situation, but he says it was really an emotional roller coaster, you know. Nobody had a playbook how to deal in this situation, because nobody, no operator or no country had gone through a total close down, which was announced overnight. And then how do you deal with this to your customers, to your members, to your staff? A lot of learning has been going on. Now, the big question, of course, is how will the consumer react when we reopen again? So on the next slide, I've put in the slides to come some information on research that has been done in various countries. So this is the results from research done by the Global Web Index this was end of April, this research. And the question asked to the consumer, and this was to thousands of consumers in 17 countries around the world, will you again come and train after the clubs open? And the number of people who said yes was 41%. So they would come immediately. This was not after 1 week or 2 weeks or 1 month. Will you come immediately and train when your club open again? So 41% was the overall for the 17 countries together. And if you then look at the different countries, you can see that in Spain, it was 31, Italy, 29, and so on. So actually, the percentage of people was relatively low in terms of saying, yes, I will come immediately when the club reopens. China was the highest. It was 48%, almost half of the people, yes, I will come again when the club reopens. And in the US, it was 27%, lower than the overall average. In the UK, it was 25%, and there was one study who also asked that, and it was pretty much the same, it was 22%, whereas in this Global Web Index research, it was 25%. So, but that was on April 29. And I think what we have seen when clubs really started to reopen, people started to gain confidence. So on the next slide, you'll see an example of Sweden. This is SATS in Scandinavia, 4 countries. This is a slide from a presentation done on a webinar a couple of weeks ago by Sondre Gravier, the CEO of SATS, where you can see on the left-hand side in Norway, the number of people who were engaging on online training, because that was, of course, the only way you could engage with the customers was offering online training. And many club owners were not really ready yet with offering online training, but had to really scramble and make this available at very short notice. So in Norway, you see there was an enormous increase in March, and then also a big increase in April. And this is compared to last year, the year before, on the usage of online training. You see 1,502%, 1,300% in Sweden. It was a little lower. Denmark, it was huge. And you can see here, by the way, this presentation and this webinar will be recorded, and you can later have a look at these slides to get a little bit more detail. But it's really interesting information to see what kind of online sessions people watched. And there were for SATS in the first 4 weeks of the live streaming, almost 300,000 participants, which is pretty amazing considering the total number of members, which is 650,000. Almost half of the members really participated in online sessions. On the next slide, you'll see an example of this from David Lloyd. This is a slide from the CEO of David Lloyd and a webinar which took place last week. And also you can see here enormous, strong participation in the digital offering, where interestingly, 51% of the members use the app, 2 million on-demand video views, 50 live classes per week were streamed, and 125 live classes were participated in. So very, very strong digital participation also here. And I know René will later come back on this from his point of view on Switzerland. On the next slide, you'll see the question also from this Global Web Index research: are you going to cancel your membership? You know, so when the clubs open again, will you cancel your membership? And that was only 11% that said, yes, I will cancel my membership. I don't feel confident to go back. And you can see in Germany it was only 9%, Italy 9%, England 7%, and so on. And in US and China, it was 10, respectively 12%. So basically the consumer during the lockdown, and this research was done in the end of April, the consumer had a big confidence in going back to the gym and not canceling their membership, but maybe not going back immediately, as we saw from the previous question in this research, but a big confidence in staying as a member in the gym. On the next slide, you'll see a further differentiation on this, on the age groups. So the Generation Z, 16% I will cancel, whereas the baby boomers, the older people, only 6% yes I will cancel. Now, some research I saw yesterday, some research from the US where you saw a similar pattern, and the cancellation had not so much to do with I don't want to go back to the gym, but I may have financial trouble in not paying my membership, and that's where mostly young people are more concerned about their financial position, as opposed to people who are a little bit older and have a little bit more money. And if you click again, Jens, on the slide, you see females and males is not so much different. And even on, it's logical, the lower income class had a bigger percentage of canceling than the higher income, which I think makes all sense. Next slide will show you another research that was done in the UK. This is from May, so not that long ago, about a month ago, this research, where 87% of gym members in England said they would likely return after lockdown. In this slide in the middle, what I find very interesting and encouraging is that 27% of the people who are not currently members at a health club said they would like to join. And this is, we'll come back to that later, a very interesting thing that we see many new joiners in those clubs that are opening again, of people who are never member of a gym before and who are now saying, yes, I need to be healthy. Yes, I need to be fit in order to have a better immune system. Next slide shows you an overview of how long it takes to get back to the normal. Now, this is from clubs that had reopened. So China This is from Wills, which is a big chain in China of 150 clubs. They have been open now for 8 weeks, and they're now at 83% of normal visits. 83%, this is visits. Sweden, 8 weeks, almost the same, 82%. Switzerland, this is not Rene Kal's company, but in general, it's 70% after 2 weeks. And Rene will tell you later where he's right now. US after 2 weeks, 45%, and Germany, 40%. So you see that it takes some time to build up after you reopen to get back to a normal percentage of visitors. The ones who will come back first are the young ones, the male ones, and the heavy users. So the fitness rats or the fitness buffs, those guys who really can't live without going to the gym almost every day, are the ones who will come first. And other people may be a little bit more prudent in coming back. Next slide will show you. This one is SATS again, where you can see the build-up. Interesting slide, because on the top one you see week 1 through week 4 in Sweden, which is the dark bar, and the orange one is Finland. You can see in Sweden they were a little bit more higher percentage of the visits compared to last year since reopening. And you can see below the group exercise visits were a little bit lower, but also there is a constraint of capacity, of course, because they only could take half the number of people in the group exercise rooms. And you can study this later. The next slide is a little bit on the same topic. So the next slide. So what is the ecosystem? Who are going to be the winners and the losers? And this is, I've taken a lot of research from US, from the UK, from Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, and this is really a summary of what these expert analysts are saying, who will the winners and the losers in the ecosystem of our sector. So on the positive side, the winners, it doesn't surprise you, will be the online offerings, the virtual fitness offerings, and the celebrity trainers. We've seen in the lockdown a lot of trainers who've started on their own through Facebook, Instagram, offering home training, having been pretty successful, and some good examples of that in various countries. The second winners will be the mental health apps. We should not kid ourselves that this lockdown has had a mental impact on many people. Many people are concerned not only about their health, but also concerned about their economic well-being, their job. So mental health apps have done very well, and they have seen a phenomenal increase in take-up by the consumer. The third category that will do positively well coming out of this corona crisis are the budget clubs and the omni-channel clubs, meaning the clubs that have a good physical offering, the offline offering, and a good online offering, where the consumer can choose, I train at home with the app from this company, or I go to the club. And the fourth category is outdoor and home fitness. Of course, we've seen many clubs offering home fitness accessories, putting a bike in the home of the people so they could continue to train, as well as people buying home fitness through web channels. And outdoor, of course, has been taking off tremendously. I've seen it here in Holland, where the clubs are not allowed to open yet, but they organize outdoor activities in front of that club or close to that club for their members so they can stay active. The second category, which will be relatively neutral according to these analysts, this is not my personal opinion, but based on the studies that I've done, are the intermediaries, meaning the gym pass, the class pass, the urban gym, a kind of offering on the platforms will do neutral. The family and neighborhood clubs will be not so much negatively impacted, and PT studios. And mostly impacted will be spinning and small group exercise studios, where people are concerned to go in a small room, be together with people who are sweating and puffing and huffing while exercising. So people are still concerned about that, and those operators may be hurt most. The boutiques and the pay-as-you-go formulas will have trouble coming out of this recession quickly. And then, of course, the commercial equipment suppliers. There will be many clubs struggling for survival, and they will not be jumping up and down to buy equipment immediately. But that is a temporary thing. So the next slide shows you the vision of SATS on the overall pandemic likely effects on society and the fitness industry for a long time. And he's broken it down on 3 buckets. One is government measures and legislation. The second one is member habits. And the third one is the economic situation. And it's clear that these things are not just typical, I would say, for Scandinavia, where this slide was made for, but I think this is pretty much relevant for all countries. I will not dwell too much on this. You can read this afterwards at your leisure. So in summarizing and in concluding, in the next slide is what is the impact of Corona on the crisis and the crisis on the sector. Well, this is a euphemism to say that there will be negative growth. A nice way of saying it will be tough times. The fundamentals of our sector have not changed, but I believe strengthened because of people are more concerned about their health. But it will be tough to come out of this crisis. You know, we've been 3 months closed for many clubs, and it will take some time to recover. There will be consolidation. We've seen yesterday, it's not on this slide, but yesterday it was announced that 24 Hour Fitness in the US is filing for bankruptcy. It's one of the larger chains in the US. This is the latest news. We already heard about Gold's Gym closing their corporate gyms in the US. In the UK, Exercise for Less, which is a budget chain, selling the business, and Energy, which is a franchise chain, also on the budget side, are looking at to sell their business. So there is already some casualties in our industry, and some other operators may buy their clubs, some of their clubs. So consolidation will continue to take place, and that already was taking place, but it's only been accelerated by the Corona crisis. Digital is here to stay, not only for online fitness, but also in the back office, in the operations, for marketing and customer relationship management. Definitely will be a big thing going forward. The sector will be more omni-channel or holistic. It's not just going to the club and exercising in the 4 walls of the club, but also going outdoor, giving nutrition advice, lifestyle coaching. It will be more holistic approach to our industry. There is a change in consumer sentiment for sure. You know, the pay-as-you-go models will have it more difficult than the membership-based, where you have an annual contract to be in a club as a member. And also the membership structure will change. I heard yesterday, for instance, an operator in Germany who never offered other than 12 months contracts is now offering month-to-month contracts, which is a new thing for that company. But it shows you that the consumer is looking for more flexibility, and operators are adapting to that. There will be an increased focus on sustainability. You know, it's very clear that everybody is now understanding that working out and being fit is good for your immune system. And this will be a positive impetus for our industry. On the other hand, the whole hygiene and safety requirements will create higher costs for operators. The next slide shows you a movement in the UK, which is Fit Together, which is an industry-wide campaign really to convince the consumer, and this is a consumer campaign, to tell consumers that it's fit and it's good to return to the gyms, and it's safe to go back because all the operators have taken precautions to offer a safe and fit environment. So that's a good thing, and you can look on the website to see what they're doing in order to do that. This is an initiative in the UK. Then the next slide is a last slide from me on advice for entrepreneurs. First of all, for those of you who have done the reopening, you know that you need to be careful. You need to win back trust, but for those who are not open yet, be careful in doing a very detailed job on the reopening. Adhere to the protocols. We know that in all countries where they're open, there have been controls from the government to see whether the clubs are complying with the protocols. So be careful there, because controls will take place. Count on a longer recovery period. 2020 will be financially a lost year, and the recovery will come later in 2021. So be prepared for that. Rethink your pricing model, as I just gave this example on offering a monthly membership instead of only a yearly one. The same goes for the online pricing. You know, many times it's now given for free, but you can't continue to do that. So you need to find a way to also make some money for the online offering. Cost control, cash is king, and look on your balance sheet is very important. And banks will be very hesitant to give you any loans. So you need to see and find self-funding for your growth. Be prepared for a second wave. I just gave the bad news about Beijing, but it can happen in Europe too. So we need to be prepared for that and be rather safe than sorry. Take care of your staff. You know, it's very important to your people make the difference, and that your staff is well prepared for all the questions they will have when the clubs reopen, that they're able and willing to deal with that, and they know what they're up against. The cooperation, I've seen very, very strong working together in the industry between both among club owners as well as suppliers. And I think René Kalt, who will speak after me, has done a great job in Switzerland to rally the troops and bring two associations together and rally with the government for earlier opening. So he'll talk about that, which is a very good example. This happened in other countries as well, which was very encouraging to see. But let's keep that up also after the reopening and after the crisis, that we work more together in our industry among club owners as well as suppliers and club owners. So and that's why it's important to support your national association. You know, we need to really hammer home the message of exercise is medicine. The fitness industry is part of the solution, not part of the problem. And therefore we need good standards and a register for exercise professionals, which, as you all know, Europe Active is promoting very much. And then we need to help to strengthen the image of the sector. It's been sad to see that in some countries, fitness was put together with saunas and sex clubs in terms of the phasing of the reopening in the industry. And that is not a good thing. And we need to really work hard also after this crisis, but improving the image of our sector to put us in a better position with the authorities when it comes again to reopening of our clubs. And the last slide just is a reminder to all of us that it is from Charles Darwin. It's been used a lot, but it's not the strongest of the species that survives, but the most intelligent, but it's the one that's most adaptable to change. And if anything that we've all had to learn in the last 3 months is to adapt to a phenomenal change. And I think our industry has done on the whole very well in doing that. So that's the end of my presentation here. And it's with very much pleasure that I now introduce you to René Kalt. René is the CEO of the Genossenschaft MIGROS Zurich, the largest operator of fitness in wonderful Switzerland. You can see from this beautiful picture that this beautiful country with mountains, snow and lakes. And René is an icon in the industry, has been there a few years, just like me. He's much younger than I am, but he's got a lot of experience. He has the scars, wears the t-shirt, and really can talk to you about their experience in opening up clubs, what he did during the lockdown and opening the clubs. So René, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Herman. Thank you for the invitation. Hello to all of you. I'm pleased to talk to you and give you a view what happened in Switzerland and what we all did. And maybe it helps for the next time. And we all hope that next time will never appear. So maybe just very few words about the company I'm working for. I'm working for MIGROS. It's the biggest company in Switzerland. You see the sales, it's almost 29 billion Swiss francs a year. And we are also the biggest company of the view of the personal inventory. So we have about 107,000 employees. That means about 75,000 full-time jobs in Switzerland. So maybe the next slide will show you what MIGROS does. They mainly are working in the retail stores, so mainly supermarket, that's the main income, but we are also in the travel area or in the financial services as well as industry, wholesaling or commerce. And the fitness or all the health commitment is included in the cooperative retailing. So, but if you want to know more, I put a link in this paper so you can read a little bit more about MIGROS, about the report. So for anybody who is interested in these details. The next slide, please. So the health engagement in MIGROS. So you see there are different parts. So the one part on the left side is the MedBase, is our medical engagement. And we are the biggest ambulant medical supplier in Switzerland. And we have, on the other hand, we are very strong in fitness. We are the biggest fitness enterprise, as well as in golf. And we have also other like recreational areas that we support in Switzerland, or multifunctional sports parks. So so you see that it's a pretty big enterprise for our leisure engagement. So maybe the next slide. A few words about me. I joined MIGROS in 1995. And we started, and I am a member of MIGROS Cooperative Zurich. Maybe a few of you know that MIGROS is not one enterprise. It's a cooperative system with 11 enterprises. And I belong to the MIGROS Zurich. And in MIGROS Zurich, I started in 1995 with one fitness club. And I'm right now, we are up to 100 fitness clubs in the MIGROS Zurich. And we are working in the area of Zurich as well as all over Switzerland with one special brand, Active Fitness, and also in Germany, as probably most of you know. I'm responsible for about 3,000 employees, and we have about 200,000 members in our clubs. So maybe the next slide. One thing that is very special for MIGROS is that in our statutes is written that we do our work mainly for improving quality of life for our customers. And that is a very important sentence, because this influences every part of MIGROS every day. So the only thing we are thinking about is how we can improve the quality of life for our customers. So, and you also see this in our vision that is written like a better life every day. So we do anything that our customer have a better life. So in the meaning of, we try to give them the best food, we give them the best education, we give them the best leisure opportunities that they can get on, and also we have a medical part that we can help them. So that is our goal. And so we every day we put all our focus on this goal. So, and you see down MIGROS report for 2019. So you see there the link. Maybe one or the other from you are interested, and you can read a lot about it. It's many hundred of pages. So maybe the next slide. Now I will come down to the lockdown of Switzerland. And I think this is very important to understand, and every country reacted differently. So in Switzerland, our government chose the possibility that they have a solution by extraordinary situation according to the Epidemic Act. So an emergency law that allowed them that they could decide all over Switzerland. So all the states in Switzerland, they could not react anymore. Our parliament was out. So only the government, the 7 people in Swiss government could decide anything. And this was, on one side, was a chance, because we knew that now we have only to talk with one person, or with one. Now I'm missing the word in English. I'm sorry. So, but anyway, that was the base. For us, this means what can we do? Now the government decided a lockdown for Switzerland. So, and our only goal was how we can reopen as fast as possible. So a lot of energy was focused on the reopening part. So first, when our government decided to do the lockdown, we had to find out who makes the decisions. And we all know it was not the government who decided. it was other people. So in Switzerland, for example, it was the Federal Office of Public Health, and for fitness, it was the Federal Office of Sports as well. So we knew we have to talk to these two federations, and with these two federal offices, we could maybe get a negotiation so we can reopen pretty fast. The second part was the criteria of positively influence the decision. So it was not only the concept of protection that we needed, we also needed to know what does it make happen that we can reopen. So we understood pretty fast that you have to talk with one voice. And as well as in other countries, there is not only one association in fitness, there are several associations in fitness. So we had to think about if every association talks to the government or if you have to talk with one voice. And what we understood, we had to talk with one voice, otherwise we have no chance to make a reopening. And the third level was we had to also understand what were the relevant factors that influences that we can reopen. So it was like everywhere, it was the distance, the hygienic, the traceability, etc. So we had to understand that these parts had to be very clear and that we have to find solutions for these relevant factors. The fourth point was that we had to develop a protection concept for the fitness industry. And this we had to do with all the different associations. That was easy. And the fifth point was that we had to keep contact because almost every hour or at least every day, the situation changed in Switzerland, and we had to adapt our concept all the time. And we did this, I think, pretty well. So 11th of May this year, we already could reopen our gyms, at least partially. Maybe the next slide. So you see there were this association was the Swiss Federation of Fitness, as well the IG Fitness, and MIGROS is a big player in this thing, and we had to sit together with all these, and they were not happy because they are sometimes also in war with each other. So we had to spend a lot of time to negotiate with all these members so we could sit together and create one protection concept. And I'm really happy that this worked out. And I think this was the reason why we could open our fitness studios, probably one of the first in Europe. So maybe the next slide. So this was our protection rules, and the main protection factors were the distance. In Switzerland is 2 meters till now. It was a big factor that helped was home office. So almost all enterprises, if possible, sent the employees at home, and they worked from home office. Then the general hygienic rules, and for sure the contact tracing. In the beginning in Switzerland it was 5 people maximum together. Now it is 30 people that can come together. But the main point is that you have to track the contacts, so you can tell that you were together with these and these. So these are the main factors. We try to find a good solution for our members. Maybe the next slide. Exactly. So this is the time schedule. So what was very important for us in the very beginning, when we anticipated that a few days later, probably the Swiss government will do the lockdown, and then it happened the 16th March. MIGROS decided already a few days before to close their studios. So we closed the studios, and we informed our customers that we will give a full-time credit for the time the fitness studios are closed. That was very important because we didn't get a lot of negative impact from our customer. They even said, thank you, that we understood that this was a very special situation. At the same time, we also told our employees that we will pay their salary 100% during this time. So this gives us also the chance to keep our employees and to have a social calmness in the system. So we could really focus all our energy to the reopening part, and we didn't have to handle a difficult situation with our customers or with our staff. So the first reopening was in Switzerland, the 27th of April. The funny part, it was first the hairdressers and the beauty salons, and only the 11th of May we could reopen fitness. Not everything, just the weights and the endurance part, but also some restaurants, museum, etc. could reopen. The 25th of May we already reopened the group fitness. It was only 2 weeks later. Sure, partly reopened. We had strong limitations, and now the 6th of June we reopened all of the fitness studios, also if you have wellness, sauna and bath. And right now we are working almost as normal, and we are looking pretty forward that in the beginning of July we have a good chance that also the 2-meter distance rule will fall away. So we have in July maybe already more or less a normal situation. Maybe the next slide. What could we observe with the reopening part? You see on the left side in the left column, what could we see? So if you look at the 11th May, we reopened the weights. We have seen that the people came back 30 to 50%. And now it's a very important information. We saw that in the premium clubs, the customers came back about 50% compared to the year before. In the clubs that are positioned in the middle, only about 30% came back. And the 25th of May, when the group fitness and the childcare reopened, we could see a parallel development. So we had like 80% in the premium clubs, the customers came back, and like 50% in the middle position. And in June now the clubs are all open. We have almost already 100% in the premiums club and 80% in the middle positions. We think that this was not only because the clubs that are in the middle position, they have how do you say? They have less surface. It was also because of the trust. And I think a strong brand and what the customer has a higher confidence will help that the customers come back. So I think this emotional impact between customer and enterprise is very important, especially with the brand together. We saw also in the daily distribution when the customers came back on the 11th May, in the beginning, a very atypical distribution. So we saw at noontime or in the evening almost no members, and the members were during the day, so from 9 to 11 and from 2 to 5. So this was very atypical, but everybody could understand why this happened. So everybody tried to find a place where he doesn't have to get in contact with other customers. But already the 25th of May and later on the 6th of June, it get more and more to normal situation. And it happened also because of the home office, because still about 50% in Switzerland work in home office. And we also could see differences in the clubs that were more countryside or in the city. So we had more higher frequencies on the countryside in the beginning. Now it's almost balanced. And also sure, as already Herman told us before, the risk groups and the older customers, they in the beginning, they almost didn't show up, and they slowly come back, but still not 100%. And the behavior was clear. In the beginning, everybody was very carefully. We could observe people didn't want to cross with each other. Now it's almost normal in our clubs. Okay, maybe the next slide. Okay, we also did, as everybody did, we talked with our customers as much as possible, and we used the newsletter, we used homepage, we used our app or the social media. Maybe in the next slide. And when we started to reopen, we also used all these different channels to reopen. So you see, we reopened first the fitness, then the group fitness, and later on the wellness part. So we had different pictures to present to our customers. Maybe the next slide. Not now, the video, just give me a second. What did we do specially for our customers during the lockdown? So we had the chance that 3 years ago, we already established a professional group fitness, strength and endurance streaming tool. So we could automatically, during the lockdown, give them the chance to go on with their training at home. And I will show you afterwards some statistics. But we also did some local group fitness also to see the difference between a professional online fitness tool and a local online fitness tool. And we have seen that there were customers that especially looked for their instructors. So we have seen in both streaming portals customers, and they choose their mainly solution. And what we also did, we gave our customers, and as I have seen this, that almost everybody did, we gave them a lot of health information, what they can do in this special situation with Corona. What we also had in some brands, we already had a group fitness reservation system, and in the others, we also established a reservation system, and we get a lot of positive feedback for this reservation system, because they really liked that they didn't have to show up in the studio, and they could not have a chance to participate. And the reopening, and especially we realized that our customers, they were very insecure. They didn't have any trust anymore. They needed some confidence. So we decided to do videos with our customers that came back to our studios. So now maybe you can show this with an older people to tell them that it's very easy to come back to the studios, and it's no problem. So and this was just to use our customers as a testimonials. And I think all these different products we gave to our customers helped that they find back pretty fast. Okay, maybe the next slide. So what you see here is with our professional group fitness tool. It's called At Home. You see how it increased the numbers of participants, the registrations for this tool. So we had almost 300 new participants. And now we have to be careful. We have almost 300,000 because we also gave this tool to our other leisure parts like golf, or to our professional adult education part. So that's why we had so many new registrations. Okay, maybe the next slide. Yes, and these are the response of our local group fitness workout. So the streamings we did ourselves with our group fitness instructor. And so you see that they were used, not as much as we wanted, but anyway, the people were very happy that they have a chance to do their workout with their own instructor. Maybe the next slide. And so, and here you see how this tool was used. The professional group fitness tool was used in this one brand like Active Fitness at home. And you see that in the beginning it jumped pretty high up to almost 7,000 users a day, but it came also down because all these heavy users that use the group fitness at home, they also came back as fast as possible. But we are still now, we are on a much higher level than we were before. Maybe the next slide. So I was asked, what did we do with our staff during the lockdown? So with our staff, we put them in the beginning in the supermarkets, because we have supermarkets, and the supermarkets were open all the time, but they had strong limitations. So we had to make sure that the customers accept the limitations, otherwise the government would have closed our stores. So the biggest part of our staff worked in the supermarkets to help them. The others, they were starting to clean in clubs, like I think everybody, all the clubs did, or they repaired the machines. And some others, they did their home videos. And all the others that could not work somewhere, they were on short time in Switzerland. And in Switzerland, we had a special situation that 80% of the salary the government is paying. So me as an enterprise, we only had to add 20%. And some of our employees also decided to take vacation, even they could not go abroad. And as I already said, and we communicated to our employees very early that they get 100% of the salary during the lockdown. Next slide. What did we do in the management? So we mainly did what we always did. So we didn't want to change too much, because we knew one day we will reopen. We also wanted to keep the rhythm of our work. So we did our meetings, even if it was a video meeting, but we did try to do our meetings. We tried to do our job like we did before, but we did some special work. We did strategy work. We prepared the reopening, so we were thinking in different scenarios how we could reopen, what will happen. So but we also prepared by, for example, buying the disinfectant, because this was very difficult to get. And we worked also a lot in the political part. We tried to communicate as much as possible, but not too much, because everybody was communicating a lot. So we had to be careful that what we communicated was also read. And we did also our projects. But the main thing, I think, what we did, we tried to keep up our work as we always did, so that the situation was already weird for all of us and was confusing us. So we tried to give them a stability to our management and to our people and to our employees. Maybe the next slide. I was also asked if the states in Switzerland, if they reacted differently, and it was really like that. As you see on this map, The French part was very difficult, especially the government in these areas. They reacted very sensitive, and we had a lot of problems even to bring back our employees to work. We think this was mainly the influence of the neighbors of the other countries, because a lot of our employees, they are living in, for example, in France or in Italy, and they work in Switzerland, and they get like two informations. They got the information from France and they got an information from Switzerland, and they were completely confused and didn't know what to do. And do I have to follow the advice from Switzerland, or do I have to follow the advices from France? So this was pretty difficult, but also the governments in these areas, they reacted very differently, and it gave us a lot of problems in the beginning. Now everything is fine for the moment. Maybe the next slide. I was asked what would I do different the next time, is probably the best question, but I don't know, because I don't think that we will get the 100% an equal situation. But what we always do after projects like this, we make a debriefing, and we try to find out what happened, what did we good, what was not so good, and we try to put this down, so to realize or to remember the next time that we shouldn't do the same mistakes. But the main thing, and then I think this was the problem for all of us, is the economic damage. And we are thinking a lot, if something like this happens again, what would we do differently that the economic damage would not be so tough like this time. And it's really tough also for us. And what we also realized is the communication with the staff. Even we tried to give them a lot of information, but they were still looking for answers, and they needed very intensive communication with us, so that we could keep them calm and that they didn't get nervous. Maybe the last slide, I think. What do I think will change in a long run? So I put there in a cloud, maybe not so much as we think now, because when I see how fast the things come back to normal here in Switzerland, maybe the impact from this corona crisis is not as big as we think now. But maybe I'm also wrong. But what I think that that will keep up is the hygienic standards. I think we will this will be different in the future. So people want to have a possibility to keep up the hygienic standards. I think also the manufacturer of the devices, of our machines, will think of solutions to use the machines, about the distance rules, or about protection walls. I think one main topic will be air conditioning. I think this was the most discussed in Switzerland. Do we allow shops or fitness studios that they have an air conditioning? Do we allow to reopen, or does air conditioning helps to get faster infected? I think there will be developments on this situation. One thing I already told you, I think we do a good job if we try to build a strong image on our brands, and that we have a strong link to our customers, because I think the trust to the provider will help us, that the customers come back and that they will pay again the bill for the next membership. I think that the factor of privacy will play new. We need again private showers or something like that. The market adjustment. We know all that a lot of players in the market are living from the hand to the mouth. And I think the ones who almost could not survive in the past, they will disappear. So we will have a normal market adjustment, a little bit accelerated. The digitalization, it's the time of digitalization, and I think for all the ones who live in this world, they will have a big acceleration out of the corona crisis, and all the non-contact applications will grow. Like the doors open automatically, the spoon, the water comes automatically when you put your hands under the water. So I think there are different developments that we will see in the future. But for us, and I think Herman already told us before in his presentation, I think the biggest chance for us is that we have a chance that now we can also tell the world that we do a very great job for healthcare, and that we are maybe one of the strongest healthcare provider in the world, and we should really try to stand together as a industry to tell the world that we help the world to get in a better health state in the future. So that's maybe my last sentence here. I hope you understood. My English is not so good, but anyway, I hope that my thoughts and my experiences I could bring over to you. Thank you.
Renee, very, very much thank you to you, because your English is, by the way, perfect. No, not a problem. Everybody could understand very well. I think I thank you very much for taking the time to put this presentation together, and your time to be with us today. You are, I would say, you're probably the champion in Europe in terms of getting opening so quickly and so well, and getting all the troublemakers at the table and convincing all the stakeholders that you had to talk to allow you to open the clubs, not just for yourself, but for the whole industry. So chapeau, I would say, hoed up für das. I also, you already told me that you're coming to FIBO in October. You've already signed and paid for the EHFF. So we're certainly going to see you there, along with hundreds of other people. So thank you very much for that. I have seen one question come in from Ralph Scholz on the German numbers that I showed from this web research in Germany. And he says, we have much better numbers for the German people wanting to come back and engaging with online. And the reason I think, Ralph, for that difference in numbers is the timing of the research. Your research was 1,000 people in Germany. The web research, I don't know the number, but it's probably a fewer number. And also it was done in April. And I think your research was done in May. So I think that explains the difference. The good news is that your research shows more positive numbers for the German willingness of the consumer to come back and to continue their membership, as well as to engage online. I think we're running a bit out of time here. There is I think now, Jens, a poll online where you can rate this webinar and you can give us tips on what other topics we should be having on the next webinar. I can tell you the next FIBO Global Fitness online seminar is on June 30. And on June 30, we have 3 CEOs speaking to you on their experiences in this difficult situation. It is Markus von Krayenest, CEO of Fitix in Germany, Stefan Tilk, the managing director of Anytime Fitness in Germany, who's just opened his first club, by the way, in Gütersloh, and then Jonathan Fisher, CEO of the Holmes Place Group. So 3, as Renee, high-level CEOs for European fitness chains. So hopefully we'll see you 11 o'clock on June 30 again for this FIBO Global Online Seminar. I thank you very much. I wish you a very good day. Stay healthy, keep on opening the clubs in those countries where we're not open yet. And I look forward to seeing you on September 30 in the EHFF and afterwards on October 1 to 3 in FIBO in Cologne. All the best. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.